The day is finally here. You guys have been requesting this video on my Instagram especially for a long time. Today we are talking about how I edit all of my photos. The software that I use is from Adobe. It's Lightroom. It's probably the most popular, probably the most comprehensive photo editing software. But even if you don't want to be paying for a editing software, a lot of the stuff that I'm using are similar tools that are going to exist on any photo editing software. So if you go use a free one or you just use apps or whatever, it's usually titled pretty much the same thing, and you'll figure out that you can adjust your photos in a similar way. So I was out running some errands earlier today and I just brought my tripod and my camera out. I snapped a few different photos of some different variations of the same outfit, the one that I'm wearing right now. We'll start here with the first one. It is this sort of headshot, low angle. So over here on the right side of the screen, I basically like to just go from the top down and then we'll actually come back up to the top. But my exposure is looking pretty on point. I actually like to darken it up a little bit, so we'll drop it just 2 clicks there. I always boost my contrast just up 10, which is 2 little presses. Highlights, I've been messing around with dropping them really low lately, but we're kind of going to drop them there to about -60. Again, the way that I learned to do this is just plug and play. I just messed around with photos for years. I am by no means a professional here, guys, so take all of this advice with a grain of salt, because I know what I'm talking about in the sense that I've done it tons and tons and tons of times, but I also am not an expert. So I'm gonna tell you what works for me. We're gonna pull the shadows up a good amount, pull those whites up to really fill in a lot of the areas, and then on the blacks, I like to drop them down a good amount to sort of add a little bit of drama to the photo. Clarity on a close-up photo like this, I don't like to boost it a ton because it starts to get a little bit too defined. On the dehaze section, I like how it adds some darkness in certain areas, so I'll usually add, just go up maybe 10, maybe 15 on that. We're gonna stick with 10 here. Because the colors of this photo are a little bit flat right now, we're gonna boost the vibrance by just dragging it up a bit. Sometimes I'm very specific, because if you press the up key, it will go up by 5 each time, or if you just drag with your mouse, you can do that as well. Saturation, I'm gonna keep the same. Here in the tone curve section, this is where you sort of add a little bit of edge to your photo. Add a little dot right in the middle, and then one here on the lower end of this curve, and grab the bottom corner and then just pull it up to the left a little bit. And you see how if I go way high, it adds a ton of that sort of smoke to the photo, but it also kind of loses a little bit of the clarity of it as well. I feel like my screen's dark. It's a little better. So we'll settle right in the middle there. That kind of adds a little bit of drama, a little bit of something extra to the photo. And then moving on down, I raise my reds and my oranges because that's what's in my skin tone. Personally, you'll figure out what's in yours very quickly. If you're white, you probably have some red and orange like I do. And then with everything else, it kind of ends up adjusting the background and or the clothes of the photos as well. So moving around the aqua to kind of darken up the background. Blues, I don't like to drop too much just because it loses a lot of the life of the photo, but you also don't want to raise them too much because it kind of blows things out. So right around there, right around 12 works for this one for me. And then there's weirdly a lot of purple in white of photos. So when you're adjusting the purple, you can see there the brighter side of my face. So again, we're just going to bring that up a little bit to add some dimension. And for whatever reason in this lighting, there's a lot of magenta in my skin tone as well. So we're going to bring that up a little bit as well, but not too much to the point that it blows out my face. After we're here with the luminance, we're going to move over to the saturation section. And again, in the same way as the luminance, we're just going to kind of adjust things a tiny bit. I don't like to add a ton of saturation to my photos because it just kind of ends up looking fake. Like if you pop the orange all the way up. You see how crazy it looks? I look like I just got a spray tan or something. And then if I'm here, it looks a lot more natural and lifelike. And then if you want to kind of desaturate the background of your photos, this is a perfect way to do it. You see how the yellow just really drops out when I do that? I used to do that a lot in my pictures, but not so much anymore. So we're just going to keep it kind of natural looking. Drop a little bit of that aqua out. Again, the blue, like I said, is very common in the picture, but I like to remove some of the blue in the saturation. Purple, again, it's in my skin tone, so I don't want to have too much of it because it ends up looking a little strange, but you do want it to be there a tiny bit. And finally, click over to the hue section, and same story. You don't want to adjust these very much because it can really kind of completely change the organic nature of the photo, but these tiny little tweaks are things that it's not something I do every single time, but when I'm doing, you know, a paid job with a brand or something where I really want to be sure that the photo looks as good as it possibly can, I will go in and just tweak all of these little details and aspects. Under the split toning, sometimes I'll do a little bit of yellow in the highlights, but if you do want to do that, I like to just click here on this little bar. It gives you these color options, and then you click right into the middle, and then you see how the yellow, if you drag it down, it loses it, but the yellow to me just kind of adds a little bit more of a lifelike quality to the photo. It doesn't look quite as cold and dead. It just really brings things a nice bit of warmth. So I feel good about that. I'm gonna hit return to settle that little detail right there. Moving on down, in the noise reduction section, luminance here, click up to 20. I always put it there, and what this is gonna do is just reduce any excess noise you have in your photo, because obviously here I can zoom in on the photo like that, and you can see my skin tone. And if I go way up high with the noise reduction, it just gets blurry. It's very weird. After everything there, I will go all the way back up to the top, and here under the temperature, click that, and I'll just very lightly drag it more towards the warmth side. If you prefer a colder photo, you can drop it way there. If you prefer a super warm photo, you can do that. I find that it kind of takes away from the realistic nature of the photo, but having things a little bit more on the warmer side, I think looks really nice. That looks pretty good to me. It's a little bit on the warm side, but I'm happy with it. And then over here on the left side next, under the grain section, I usually like to add a light bit of grain just because I think it gives a little bit of a vintagey sort of nicer aspect to the photo. You can go super heavy with it. You've seen people do that. If I can zoom in, you can see all that grain there, but I'm gonna keep it right on the light area. So now that I kind of have my base layer here figured out for what I wanted in terms of my colors, you can press the bracket key, which is right below the delete button, to see the original photo and what you've done so far. From here, I'll go into my fine tune edits. So like I've got a zit on my forehead right now. So if you go up here on the right side to the spot removal tool, click that. You can drag with 2 fingers or just adjust the size over here in the menu, fit it right around there, and the software's smart enough to be able to just kind of remove it like that with a spot that's going to be similarly colored. So I don't like to do a ton of facial modifications or anything like that, but when it's a small little thing like that and there's potential that it's a brand deal, so I'm going to be sharing this photo with the brand and they potentially could be posting it on their account with a huge amount of followers or whatever, I like to make myself at least look clean faced and blemish free. Again, also with this one, see how my jawline right here is shadowed, but it probably could be a little bit better. Go over here to the adjustment brush on the right side, select darken, make sure you're on the A brush because it feathers out on the outsides. I'll zoom in. If you click over here on the left side, you can zoom in anywhere you want on the photo really easily when you're already on a brush. And I will add just a tiny little bit of extra darkness to the black that's already there, so that you can see here on the brush menu itself, down here on the bottom left corner, you can turn off the adjustment to see how it is. Go over here, we'll fit the whole picture like that. You can turn off the brush adjustment and see that it's nothing drastic, it's just kind of accentuating what's already there. So it really accentuates my jawline, which I think is an attractive feature. Again, we'll hit the bracket key to see the before and after, and boom. It's a little bit of a process. I know that took a while, but it's something that the more you do it, the easier it's gonna be. And then what you can do is press the right button to go over to the next photo. The lighting is very different in this photo, but we're gonna try it anyway. And you can hit previous right here, and it will literally just apply all of the same edits to the photo that you just created before. Obviously, because the lighting is so different, I would have to adjust things, but you can see, so like this one is pretty similar to that first photo, so I bet if we hit previous, that one looks much better. But you do still have, like, I have my jawline darkness that I added in there, and I'd have my little zit coverage in here as well. Got to get rid of those things. When you do add previous edits, it will just literally copy every single step that you've done. But to me, this doesn't look quite dark enough, so I'm going to drop my darkness just a little bit. Also drop my shadows a little bit. And you can see it ends up looking really nice. And if you've shot a whole set of photos in the same location with very similar lighting, because ideally you want to, you know, be shooting during the times of day when things are softer and easier to get that really nice exposure, you're able to add very similar edits, and all of a sudden you can create presets if you're always shooting in similar lighting. Like if you live in a place where it's always overcast, create a preset, and all of a sudden you're like you're able to edit photos like that, which is really, really helpful. So that actually took a lot longer than I was expecting it did. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I hope that it was helpful. If there's anything specific that you're curious about, or if I didn't cover something, or you want to see how to edit photos in certain lighting or whatever, please let me know down in the comments. Any other questions, obviously you can send me a DM on Instagram. Go follow me there, turn on post notifications. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. Tell a friend about the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.